So today I have both sides, Ida and Pingala. Yogic language. Shushumna, we don't know, maybe somewhere. Okay, so yesterday we started on the Upanishad. Now I need to tell you something to round up what we discussed in simple words, in a concise, edited version of what we did. This is the Keno Upanishad, or any other Upanishad for that matter, is not trying to tell you not to do sadhana or not to read something or understand the scriptures. It's none of that. If you did not read the scriptures, you wouldn't even be reading the Keno Upanishad, right? All it is trying to do, that in the end, if you need to find that which you seek, which is undefinable, and which mostly is interpreted by all human beings according to their own capacities. But when it comes to the ultimate, no one really can define it in any way. This is the whole essence of the Upanishad. It doesn't say you don't know. There's a story that comes, for instance, not only this Upanishad. There is an Upanishad called the Mundaka Upanishad, which of course is one of the principal Upanishads. In fact, when I came here, a very senior person, well-read, but also has been in politics for many years, who has been the chairman of the Auroville Society for 25 years, maybe 20 years. Huh? Yeah. So Maharaj Sahab called me. We had a discussion. I am not going into the details of the discussion, but he said, I heard you are going there. So he recommended that you either do the Mundaka Upanishad or the Keno Upanishad. I think he is very fond of the Mundaka Upanishad. So I told him I will do the Keno Upanishad. He said, okay. Now, but the Mundaka Upanishad is also a very important Upanishad. Why I am saying this is this, because in the Mundaka Upanishad, do we need the reference? Now this Pingala is coming in the way. There are two sisters actually, Ida and Pingala. So where is the Mundaka? See, the problem is I don't prepare or read before I come, so I get a little confused. Where is it? Ishavasya, Kena. This is Mandukya. Incidentally, the Mandukya Upanishad has only 12 verses, the shortest of the Upanishad. And the other day I heard a Swami of the Ramakrishna Mission saying that if you read the Mandukya Upanishad, you don't need to read anything anymore. Anyway, we are not doing that because we need to read something more. And he was right in a way. I know there are many people here where is the Mundaka Upanishad? It cannot be that. check the contents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yeah, 669. I'm searching for it because nice to hear the original, right? Rest you think I'm bluffing now. Now the Mundaka Upanishad. Says, as the day goes on, my eyesight improves. The Mundaka Upanishad, section 1, section 1, verse number 2 says, Atharvane yam pravadetha brahma atharva tam purvo janigre brahma vidyam sabharadvajaya satyavahaya praha bharadvajo angirase paravaram, which means that knowledge of the Brahman, of the Supreme, which is also referred to in the Kena Upanishad, which the Brahma himself, the creator, not to be confused with the Supreme Brahman. Brahma, for having created the universe, has only one temple made because he created, or it created, whatever. Anyway, not to be confused with the Supreme Brahman. That knowledge of Brahman, which Brahma taught to Atharvan, and Atharvan in olden times told Angirasa, taught Angirasa. There was no written record. It was all by rote. Somebody chanted, listened, understood, passed it on. So there was not much question of interpretation left or changing the writing. Shruti, that which is heard, right? Then Angirasa taught to Satyavaha, a son of Bharadwaja. So what you're reading has a hoary tradition. They've all listened and learned this. We are no less important, that's what I'm saying. He taught it to Satyavaha, the son of Bharadwaja. The son of Bharadwaja taught it to Angirasa. What did he teach? Para Varam, the higher and the lower knowledge, both. Then what happens? Saunako Havai Mahashalo Angirasam Vidhivat Upassanaha Papracha Kasminno Bhagavo Vijñate Sarvamidam Vijñatam Bhavati iti. So Saunaka the great, let me repeat, Saunaka the great householder, I'm repeating, not to take me lightly, I'm a householder. Saunaka the great householder duly approached Angirasa and asked him, through kasminno bhagavo vijñate sarvamidam vijñatam bhavati iti. Through what being known, Sir, Venerable Sir, Bhagavo, does all this become known? Or did he ask? Saunaka, the great householder, approached Angirasa and asked him, Sir, what being known, does all this become known? Which means that nothing more remains to be known. To him he said, who? Angirasa. Angirasa said to Saunaka, Tasmai saho vaja, he said to him, Dvi vidye vedittabhye itihasmayat brahma vidho vadanti parajai va aparaja. He said to him, there are two kinds of knowledge to be known. As indeed the knowers of Brahman declare, the higher as well as the lower. Both the higher and the lower. Hey, what's that cloth on your head? Oh, fan, okay. Old friends, so I'm taking the liberty of asking her, what's that thing on you? It looked like the Sahasrara Chakra. So to him he said, two kinds of knowledge are to be known, as indeed the knowers of the Brahman declare. What are those? Para, Jai, Va Aparaja. The lower, the higher and the lower knowledge. Then he explained further, because the question Angirasa has is, if you say there are two kinds of knowledge, you have to explain to me, because I want the higher knowledge, I don't want the lower knowledge. So he further clarified by saying, first let me describe, he said, the lower knowledge, so that you will reach the higher knowledge by freeing yourself from the lower knowledge. But you have to know, right, how to distinguish. So then he gave a list of lower knowledge. Tatra apara. That means lower knowledge. Para is higher knowledge. And what is the list in the Mundaka Upanishad of the lower knowledge? Here comes. Rigvedo, Yajurveda, Samavedo, Atharvaveda, Shiksha, Kalpo, Vyakaranam, Nirukta, Chando, Jyotisham, iti. These are the lower knowledge. So why are we reading the Upanishad? So does it mean you shouldn't read the Upanishad? Because if you don't read, you won't understand this either. It's not that it's to not understand or read these things. It is to say that even this, if it does not lead to the understanding of the Supreme Brahman, it's still considered as lower knowledge. That's what it means. Why? Because the next sentence says, after saying tatra aparo, apara vidya, Rigvedo, Yajurveda, Samavedo, Atharvaveda, Shiksha, Kalpo, Vyakaranam, Niruktam, Chando, Jyotisham, everything is included, not only the Vedas but all the Upavedas. Iti, then he says Paravidya, Atha Parayaya, Tat Aksharam Magigamyate. That is the highest knowledge which takes you to the understanding of the undecaying Supreme Being. which is permanent, which is forever, which doesn't come or go, which is everlasting, that which takes you to that, adhigamyaha, lifts you up to that, is that which is considered to be paravidya. Which means, now if you didn't read this, now this is the Upanishad. It comes from Atharva Veda. Mandukya? Yajur? Atharva. I'm not bad. Comes from Atharva. And if you didn't read it, how would you know this? Right? So it's not to discourage you from understanding, but to say that even if you can communicate with human beings or animals or lizards or whatever, if you don't know the highest knowledge, then you're not understanding paravidya. That's what it means. I just took it up to show you that this reference is also there in other Upanishads, not only Kena Upanishad. So you should look at the Kena Upanishad from that angle. When it says, Nedam yaddidam upasate, nothing that you worship here, it means that supreme undecaying supreme being, which once known, nothing more remains to be known, is nothing comparable to it in this world that you worship. That's what it means. It also means that the highest thing that the human being worships is his own ego. So through worshipping the ego, you will not get there. Also means nothing that you worship here. Neither wealth, nor fame, nor name. No, this is only for the absolute. If you are not interested in the absolute, don't read the Upanishad. No point. And please, good news, even if you are a householder, you can understand the Upanishad. Who is asking the question? So, we'll go back to the Kena Upanishad. Okay, before that, I want to tell you a story which is actually from ancient Jain sources. Ancient Jain sources, which was adapted and made popular by a Sufi teacher called Jalaluddin Rumi. Rumi is well known. Many people have heard of the Masnavi and so on, the teaching of Rumi. You still have his tomb in Konya, which is a little away from Istanbul, which has a small inscription which says in Persian, Tute ki guri mardan re parasti girdi re mardan girdorasti, which means, what is the need for you to bow your head down before this? If you practice what I did, others will bow to you. So anyway, so Rumi popularized this story from the ancient Jain sources. This is the story of 3 blind men who went to see what an elephant is all about. Remember that there are 3 blind men, okay? Now it is all right. Now it's near the Anahat, so I can talk from my heart. So they went to see, 3 blind men went to see what an elephant is. So one of them touched the feet of the elephant. Can't see, so touched. And he defined the elephant beautifully, saying that the elephant is like a pillar. Rough pillar, not polished, and very hard and big. And we have been warned that if you do go too close, you might be crushed. His definition of the elephant. And the other touched the trunk of the elephant and said, an elephant is like a hose. I don't think there was rubber then, hose. It keeps moving, stick, and it makes push, push noises. Do you know the correct word in Gujarati for a telephone? Karna puspusi. So, push, push. It makes a push, push noise. Okay, that is his definition of the elephant. And also we have been told if you don't go too close, because you might be lifted up and crash to the floor. Second definition. The third blind man touched the tail of the elephant and said it's like a bathroom brush, but sharper and stronger. It keeps moving all the time. If you do go too close, you might be slapped by it. Definitions are crystallized and solid because depending on one's experience. And then started the big fight, which is continuing to this day. Am I wearing this mark or this mark? Continuing to this day. So, the fight started between them. So much so, you know what happens when fights become serious? Fistcuffs. One guy was sitting on the other's chest trying to strangle the other. My definition is right, your definition is wrong. Why? Because I know it, I touched it. Right? Now, what happens in this case? That a man who is not blind and who is not wearing sunshades in the daytime enters. There's a young man sitting with sunshades, full daylight. Don't look, he won't take it off. So, he entered. Now understand this, he was not blind. He could see fully. He saw the elephant and he saw the fight. So he said, what are you fighting about? He said, first he said, stand up, come on. What are you fighting about? He said, well, elephant is this, the elephant is that, and elephant is this. Then he said, you're right. You're right. You are also right. I said, how can this be? If I am right, the other fellow must be wrong. If the other guy is right, I must be wrong. He said, no, because you're blind. You only felt. I can see, it's a whole elephant. And your definitions are from one part of the elephant, as much as you can see, as much as you can understand. The whole cannot be pictured by the mind, by the ordinary mind, unless it can see with a vision which is different, which is beyond the ordinary senses. Now the person who appeared, who was not blind, was the teacher, fully illumined spiritual teacher. He saw, others didn't see. This is the problem. The Kena Upanishad is talking about the whole elephant, even beyond the idea of an elephant. Therefore, the supreme truth which it's talking about is difficult to be defined by any definitions or approaches. When the mind understands this, there is humility. And there is a breaking free from all structures. It comes only through humility, because if you have no humility, you will not break free. You say, I'm right. Okay, you're right. But that's okay to say you're right, but don't say the other fellow is wrong. We may be looking at it from a different way altogether. I remember when I was young, sorry, we are in the Upanishad, okay? Upanishad does not mean just the text. When I was wandering as a young man with Maheshwarnath Babaji, my guru, many people used to come to him to settle issues. So one day we were sitting near Badrinath on a rock. And I was sitting there was nobody else, hardly. Some sadhus came. Because they heard that Maheshwarnathji was there and they wanted to come to him and sort out a big problem that was going on. So there were Vaishnava sadhus and there were Shaivite sadhus. So the Shaivite sadhus had the Vaishnavites be 1 or 3 or 2, whatever. So they came to him saying, we heard you are here, can you work out this dispute for us? Because with Narayana or Shivam, who is the Supreme Being? So I was listening keenly. Babaji said, look, whether the ultimate is Narayana or Shivam, all the acharyas have agreed that the mind has to be purified. Yes or no? Have you purified your minds? They looked at each other down. If you have purified your mind, and if you move on the path of sadhana, whatever path you follow, then, so now you don't see the Supreme's face, right? So what do you do as your sadhana? So we do pada sevanam. Nice, he said, wonderful, good start. So when you do pada sevana, you don't see the face, no? So after a lot of pada sevana, one day you will see the face. When you see the face, you can decide whether the Lord is wearing this or this mark. Why are you fighting now? Go home back to your respective ashramas and do your sadhana. And then find out for yourself. That the mind has to be purified, nobody has any doubt on that. Right? Nadi Shuddhi is required. Manashuddhi is required. Bhava is required. The mind can be applied only when there is bhakti, though it cannot be applied. Bhakti means to respect somebody who, or something which is beyond you, which you cannot grasp. The ego mind always says, I know everything, I can grasp everything. Sorry, you cannot. When you say, I cannot, then surrender begins. Not to a human being, to the idea that one needs to go beyond these assumptions to find the truth. No, this is the teaching of the Upanishad. That's why it sounds sometimes so cut and dry and clear. The idea is to eliminate all that is not real till you are left with only the reality. So it does a good job of cutting. To eliminate. When you reach a position when nothing can be eliminated anymore, there is the truth. Okay, I'll give you another example. Before a deity is established in a temple, what form is it? Big rock? And who is working on it? A sculptor. He has an idea of what the deity is, right? And is sitting on it with one leg on it, not at the deity, okay? And he's chipping. Is he creating the deity? Or is he chipping away all that is unnecessary so that the deity appears? What is he doing? Chipping away. Upanishad is the supreme chipper. Chips away. All that is not required unless there is only that which is required. But in this case, of course, there is the image. And you know how it is deified and made into a deity. After it is done, it is cleaned and placed in the sanctum, the Garbhagriha. Why is it called Garbhagriha? The womb, the temple. Womb house, if you translate. And then what happens? Prana Pradishta is done. Who does the Prana Pradishta? The human being. And what is Prana Pradishta? Avahan, which is bringing the deity into your heart first and then transferring it into the deity. If no Prana Pradishta is done, the deity is not worshipped in any temple. If you say ancient times Prana Pradishta was done by the great rishis, therefore it was a real Prana Pradishta, which is why people flock to such places. Really the deity was invoked and passed into them, not just a ceremonial Prana Pradishta. Right? So how does the deity appear? By chipping off that which is. Therefore the Upanishad is meant for that, which doesn't mean that you should stop your sadhana. It's not that. But while you do, keep this in mind that the ultimate cannot be grasped by the senses, even by the mind. And that when the mind is still, as you asked yesterday, and absolutely no movement of the mind remains in its essence, then there is only the Supreme Being. And believe me, anyone who has touched that knows everything. There is nothing to be known. It doesn't mean that he knows nuclear physics, please. Don't go and ask a yogi what is nuclear physics. That's not the meaning. It means you have known that which is to be known and nothing more remains to be known. That's what it means. People have this wrong impression that if you are a realized person, then you must be knowing everything, physics. Not required. It means you have no desire to know anything more because what the mind desires has been achieved. I'll give you an instance of a young man who went to see Ramana Maharshi in the ashram. He was very young. He said he's in Mauna. So, he was there for 3 days. On the 3rd day, he went to Maharishi and he sent him a note. The note said, I've been here for 3 days. Nobody has asked me if I'm hungry or thirsty. Nobody has given me food. I see you feeding monkeys here. How come you didn't know that I'm hungry? Maharshi's very simple answer, because you didn't tell me. He didn't say that, I knew it, but I am... He said, you didn't tell me, how do I know? That doesn't mean that the person is reading everybody's minds. If you know this, then you won't fall into some pitfalls. Right? So, okay. I'm also saying this so that you don't think that I'm reading your mind. So yesterday, we did evening. I'll try not to use this. So we did the 5th verse of the Upanishad, which said, Yad vacha nabhyutitam yanavaga bhyutyate tadeva brahmam tvam vidvi nedam yad idam upasate. That which is not expressed through speech, because speech can describe only those things which are tangible to us through the Panchendriyas. And poetic expressions of that, maybe. That much, yes. The imagination also can express many things. But the Brahman cannot be imagined or expressed. Therefore, that which is not expressed through speech, but that by which speech is expressed, the consciousness inside, because of which one is able even to express speech, vak. Here, speech means vak, the original sound. That only understand you, the student, is the Supreme Brahman. Nedam yad idam upasate. Nothing what people adore here. Now the 6th one, I wanted to do the Upanishad so that I can keep people away from me. The 6th sloka is a repetition of the same in a different context. It says, Yan manasa namanute, yanahur mano matam. Don't turn that way. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi, nedam yadidam upasate. Last line is a repetition. Nedam yad idam upasate. The first line says, Yan manasa na manute, that which cannot be thought of by the mind. Yanahur manomatam, but by which the mind gets its capacity to think. It's an extraordinary capacity to think, but that cannot be captured by thought. That which is not thought by the mind, but by which the mind gets the capacity, derives the capacity to think that only verily know, O student, is the Brahman and not what people adore here. Serious, huh? Extreme. The seventh is again the last sloka is a repetition. Okay, so will the mind ever, even though it gets the capacity to think from the Brahman, will it ever grasp the Brahman? The Upanishad says no. When it says no, it means the mind in its normal state. Which is why in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, Patanjali defines yoga as yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the nirodha of the vrittis of the chitta. Got it? Vrittis are the fluctuations of the mind. Sometimes down, sometimes up, sometimes like this here. The fluctuations of the mind. High, low, love, affection, anger, hatred. The mind, you know the mind. We all know mind. We all have a mind, right? Are we mindless? No, we all have a mind. And it is always fluctuating. Fulfilling desires, then one desire is fulfilled, another one crops up to new fulfilling it, it goes on. There is no Purnata, it's always Apurna. Although the Upanishad declares Purnamada Purnamidam, but idam is not Purna. Atha, maybe, who knows? So, the mind is in a constant, also distractions, constant distraction. 2 minutes we cannot sit without distraction. We all know it. That mind cannot find the Brahman because a mind which is free of the vrittis. Vrittis means this ups and downs, these distractions, contradictions, tensions. When all these are freed from the mind, that is yoga. Yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. All the vrittis are gone. The question is such a mind at all? It's not the mind as you define it. It's gone beyond. According to Sankhya, such a mind is almost like a mirror that reflects the Purusha, the Supreme. Now this is possible through the practice of Abhyasa Yoga or through keen study of the texts. If a person is sharply intelligent, or through great devotion. When there is deep devotion, not expecting anything in return, normally you know what devotion is. God, every day I'll offer you one flower, I need a promotion in 3 months. Or, things like, we all know that. I'm traveling, it's a Tuesday, hope I don't have an accident. Om Trambakam Majamahe Sugandhim Mushtivardhanam. Prayers. Do you know the real meaning of a Mahamrityunjaya mantra? Om Trambakam Majamahe. I bow down or worship the three-eyed Lord. Trambakam Yajamahe. Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam, whose intrinsic qualities is Sugandha and Pushtivardhanam, increase of life energies. Urvarukamiva bandhanan muktyor mukshiyamamritat. Like the pumpkin that when it gets ripe, disattaches itself from the stem. Urvarukamiva bandhanan mrityor mukshiyam, free me from death. That way. Which actually means give me moksha, not save me from death. Free me from ever dying, which means to realize the immortal essence in us. Yeah, Atman, that's what it means. But we are human beings. So, now why did I go there? Yeah, so through supreme devotion, expecting nothing but the love of the divine, there are no distractions then. You're not asking for anything. And you're not feeling low when nothing is given to you, because you're not asking in the first place for anything except you. That is also okay. When people used to come to Maheshwarnath Babaji and said, we want to learn Kriya Yoga, he used to ask them, okay, you learn Kriya Yoga, sit down. What Kriya Yoga did Mirabai practice? Or what Kriya did Ramana Maharshi practice? Which simply means, even if you practice yoga, kriya or any other, unless your mind is fully into understanding the truth and nothing else, that you don't compromise, there is no hope of reaching the truth. That's what. Maybe your approaches may be different. We cannot argue on that. Each person has a different mindset, different background, different mentality. If you go to a person of the heart and says, Neti, you, this is not, it would appear meaningless to that person. While it is a fact, but it would certainly appear meaningless. So that will happen when the mind also is totally devoted and it wants nothing but that. Then what is not required will be blown off. But we should be very careful. You shouldn't be pretentious when you go before your deity. Be truthful at least. Because Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa went in front of Bhadrakali and said, take everything away from me, don't do that. And she starts pulling the rug, you will run for your life. Be honest. You should know where you stand. Don't be dishonest in looking at yourself spiritually. Be humble and should be some humility. I am here I am. I should move forward. Apparently there was a lady who was a grandmother who used to go to the Bhadrakali temple every day and pray to the goddess. Take away everything. But believe me, when she went to the temple, she had all the keys to all the cupboards here. Lest the daughter-in-law take it off. And please take away everything. Why are you leaving me here? Take me with you, and so on. So the priest who used to hear it every day thought, this woman is such It's such hypocrisy. She really doesn't mean much. So let's try it out. So one day he went and stood behind. Chaturbhujam, 4 hands are there. He put 2 more. You can't find out easily. Especially if you have the same complexion, it is okay. So he stood. And then she came and repeated, the same thing, please take me away. I don't want anything. So he said, Vango, come. You know the reaction, right? Ran for her life. He said, who will look after the grandchildren? What will happen to the provision in the kitchen? So, when you approach these subjects, think carefully what you want. Don't over-exceed your limitations and say nonsense which you don't mean, actually. Right? Okay. If I don't go and explain these matters, one thing is you will fall asleep. Instead of samadhi, there will be sushupti instead of turiya. Which is why I go off and explain and then come back. One reason. Secondly, it needs an explanation. I'm not blaming you. Even when I studied Upanishads with my master, I used to feel sleepy sometimes. What is this, not this, not this. So what is it? The next one, the 7th, is a repetition again, but of a different indriyas, which is yat chakshusha na pashyati yana chakshumshi pashyati tadeva brahmatvam vidvi nedam yadidam upasate. Last one is a repetition. The first one says, that which is not seen by the eye, but by which the eyes have the capacity to see, know that is the Brahman and not what people here adore. Nothing that you worship here. Yat chakshusha na pashyati yana chakshumshi pashyati tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedam yad idam upasate. Which means that because of which the eye has the capacity to see and recognize, but which cannot be seen. I know that you exist here, right? Why? Because I can see you. Even if you don't make any noise, it's absolutely quiet, I can still see you, right? Because of my eyes. So that I can see you is a proof that I have eyes. I cannot see my own eye. Can I? Except in the mirror, which is a reflection. I can't see my own eye. Go back and look. But I know that I exist because I see everything. This is the meaning here, that the Supreme Being is like the eye which sees everything, but you cannot see yourself. That eye has no capacity to see itself. Because it can see, you know that it exists. How we get what we're trying to say? The very fact that it is makes me see. I cannot see it, just as I cannot see my own eyes. But because I can see, it exists, otherwise I cannot see. Water is used to purify, to clean. You sprinkle water from the sacred waters to purify. Baptism is through sprinkling of water. Puja is, Abhisheka is by adding water. But does water requires to be purified? This is the situation of the Brahman. It is that which purifies. It need not be purified. There is no necessity for it to be purified. It is by its very nature pure. So when the Upanishad says, Yat chakshusha na pashyati yana chakshumshi pashyati pradeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yad idam upasate. That which is the eye of the eye, but which the eye cannot see, that alone is the supreme truth, nothing that you adore here. Even the beautiful coal-lined eyes are not the Brahman. Yat shrotre na shrunoti yana shrotram midam shrutam tadeva brahmatvam vidvi nedam yad idam upasate. Please don't think I am saying this, no? This is Shruti. Very ancient. It comes from the Samaveda, which means that which is not heard by the ear sound can be heard by the ear. But that which is beyond sound cannot be heard by the ear. Even sound, after a certain frequency, cannot be heard. Okay, when you ring the bell, how long can you hear the bell? After it stops, for some time. It goes on. After that, the ear does not have the frequency to hear the sound. Doesn't mean the sound has stopped. No sound made in this world has ever stopped. But the ear doesn't have the capacity to pick up that frequency. It's become so mild. Right? And this is beyond sound which is heard by the ear. The ear doesn't have the frequency to hear this. Shrotre na shrunoti, that which the ear cannot hear, which is the sound of the sound or the ear of the ear. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. That is the supreme truth. Nothing that you worship here. And we have learned, we have studied for centuries about pranava, Om. One part of Om can be heard by the ear. Om. But the Ardha Matra, which is beyond that it can't be heard. And that is the Brahman. The represents the waking state of consciousness. The U represents the dream state of consciousness. And the the Om, represents Sushupti, deep sleep. And what is beyond? The vibration that comes with the Ardha Matra is the Brahman, which cannot be actually heard by the ear. It's beyond. So after you chant Om and sit quietly, try to fix your attention on what is after. And then perhaps you have an understanding of what the Upanishad is saying here. Shrotre na shrunoti yana shrotram midam shrutam tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yad idam upasate. And it is because of the presence of that unsaid sound that all sounds are important to us. And how important are the sounds? We define people by sound, by words. Words are formed through sound, right? And the Samaveda in which the Kena Upanishad occurs is purely about sound. You would have thought that sound travels only when sound does not travel in a vacuum. Physics. Sound does not travel in a vacuum. I am saying that sound does travel. That is not the ordinary sound which is caused through friction or striking of two things. It is the anahat. Anahat means sound produced without hitting two objects together. Anahata. Hata means to strike. That which happens automatically without striking things together in its own original state, the eternal sound which is always there for us to hear, but we cannot hear through the ear, and that is called the Nad. This is what the Nadi yogis are trying to do. But there's a silver lining to this, which is if you listen to pure sound, even physical sound, with complete attention, your mind may one day take you to that which is the origin of sound and beyond. So, therefore, sound is the link between the corporal world and that which is beyond. Only link, not vision, not touch, not smell, sound, among all things. Which is why sound has from time immemorial been used as a spiritual practice. This is where Nada Yoga comes from. This is where the sound of bijaksharas, the sounds of mantras have all come. It's not so much the meaning of the word in a mantra that is important, but the sound with which it is produced, which reverberates in your mind and links you to the origin of sound, which cannot be heard by the physical ear, but is the link. And it requires no language. What language do you require? If somebody is playing the flute or the veena, do you need to know any language? If you're listening to Beethoven, do you need a language? To listen, not to write notations. You don't. The sound, pure sound. So imagine what could be that pure sound, which is beyond all sound, the origin of sound. And the nearest approach to that sound is Om, the Pranava. Therefore, even Vedantins, pure Vedantins, who don't believe in any yogic practice or so on, even they believe in Pranava sadhana. Listening to Om. Mundaka Upanishad says, the Katha Upanishad says, the Lord of Death, Yamadeva, advises Nachiketas. You know the meaning of Nachiketa, right? Nachiketa, one who does not know. So to start the study of Katha Upanishad, you should be in the position of Nachiketa. And advising him, he says, the link between you and that which is beyond, the inner self which is Amrita, deathless, is the Pranava. Okay. I will finish today with the 9th sloka, which again is a repetition, but on a different context. Yat pranena praniti yana prana praniyate tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yad idam upasate. That which is not breathed by life, but by which life breathes. So it's not the prana that they're talking about, which we breathe, not oxygen. It is by which one, breath, anyway. Yat pranena praniti yana prana praniyate tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upas. That which is not breathed by life, but by which life breathes, that, know, O student, is the Supreme Brahman, not what people adore here. Okay. The rest shall be done when I come back. Now, let me explain this a little more. The breath. We're talking about the breath, right? Yeah. Have you noticed that there are many involuntary functions of the human body? Circulation. We don't ask the body, circulate. Right? It's happening, circulating. Digestion. We eat, of course, we chew and we swallow. And even if we need to swallow, you cannot, if your peristaltic moment doesn't happen. That is also not under our control. Once it goes down, suppose. The digestion is not under our control. We don't say, come on, digest. We don't say, come on, excrete, right? It happens. We are pressured to do it at some point. It's an automatic process. Different acids go into the system, enzymes work. We don't create the enzymes. We like to think we are under control of everything. Circulation is not under our control. The heart is not under. Heartbeat, do we say beat? Or when it stops beating, can we say start? We like to think we are under control. Beautiful illusion. Lovely. Even life is not in our hands because the heart can stop. You can't say start. Unless you learn how to live without the heart working at all. That's a different story. Let's not get into that. So, circulation, heartbeat, digestion, not under our control. Breath, again not under our control, generally. We don't, when you are born, you don't say breathe and then start breathing. It happens automatically. The cry of the child is actually the first breath. The Buddha asked the question, have you heard of a child which is born laughing? It's as if in the subconscious it knows what is coming. And rarely people die laughing. Rarely. Both sides. Anyway, so normally breath is not under our control. It's a normal process. And when it stops, off ho gaya, finished. In Malayalam there's a pancharai, no air in the tire. But that's one process which can also be brought under our control. Other processes cannot be brought. Circulation we can't, heart we can't, digestion we can't, even though we can eat tons of Ayurvedic medicine, but still it is not under our control. You can drink Dashamula Arishtam at night, okay. But breath is something which is involuntary but can also be voluntarily controlled. There is only one link. So, I'm talking about this prana. And a prana praneyate. So there is one link, which is why it comes in the end, prana. Through which you can link to that which makes it work automatically all the time. That is the prana, real prana. The real prana is the Supreme Brahman, which is responsible for all our life activities. But this one function we can also voluntarily follow. And therefore, when you link with the breath, you're linking with the origin of the breath, which is the Supreme Being. It's also like breathing. According to the Puranas, this world comes into existence when Brahma breathes out. One breath, maybe symbolic. And then pralaya. In the same way, the human being a microcosm of the macrocosm, can achieve many wonderful things with the breath. And it's one link which is creative. It could also be destructive. It's one thing which can be controlled rhythmically and change in its patterns to influence the mind. Slow breathing is a calm mind, and agitated breathing is an agitated mind. So the breath is a very important link to that, the source of all breath, which is the Supreme Brahman. So therefore, put your attention on the breath. It's the best kind of sadhana possible. So now I need some breathing space. We'll come back in the noon and I'll complete the Upanishad. The Upanishad. If I really say complete the Upanishad, you'll all go out, complete moksha, but may not be. But I'll finish the text in the afternoon, and then we'll have a question and answer session. Okay? Thank you.